Hello, hello. Good morning. How's it going? Hello, hello. Good morning, good morning. How's it going? Oh, yeah, and good afternoon, good evening to some of you. Hello. I'm a little late today. My little guy, good morning, Memento. Good morning, good morning. Hi, Cindy. I'm about 15 minutes late because as soon as I went to sit down, I heard a little voice say, Mommy, can I have a pancake? Yes, I'll always make you a pancake. So that was a quick pancake making, and I'm back. Hello, hello. Good morning, beautiful people. How's it going? So, how was the collective today? Did you all sleep well? Did you have good rest? A nice Friday night? How are you all doing? Anybody have any cool dreams that they want to talk about today, or any freaky shit happen? I just came on to check my page. I schedule stuff in the mornings because just because you schedule things throughout the day in case I'm not going to be on. And I shared a meme, it made me laugh, of Snow White flipping the bird, setting some boundaries against the witch in the meme, and it made me laugh, right? So I shared it. Well, this morning I got two angry followers underneath it. They were going to follow me because they didn't appreciate Snow White flipping the bird. So, I just want to say there's always going to be people who don't like what you have to say or what you put out there. And if those people, if you're not their cup of tea, then they can go find another cup of tea. Don't change your flavor just because somebody doesn't like it. Right? So fuck them. If they don't like memes with flipping the bird, then this is the wrong Facebook page. We flip the bird around here, don't we, guys? So that's what I mean. All of us were unique for a reason. My friend the other day, she joked, she's like, "You're like the patron saint of misfits." Because somebody in the comments said something about me being a saint, and I said, "I've never been a saint. Are you kidding?" And that's when my friend texted me. She goes, "You're the patron saint of misfits and black sheep." I was like, "That is quite a compliment. Thank you." So no, I'm not going to change my attitude, my behavior, my mannerisms, my anything for anyone. Thank you very much. So I don't think any of you should change for anybody else either. If they want somebody more love and lighty, there are plenty of more people out there who are a lot like me, just fluffier. You guys don't come here for the fluff, do ya? Exactly. So let them go take a walk. I don't even care. But they were quite upset over that meme. I was really surprised. So yeah, hell yeah, Kale. Kale says stay feral. Love it. Good morning, Laura. You're up early on a Saturday, honey. How's it going? So what do you guys want to talk about today? Anybody have any interesting things going on? Anybody have any cool dreams? Anybody going through some shit? What do you guys want to talk about today? I have a very exciting, schedule for next week. Sarah Breskman Cosme is coming on Monday. I'm very excited to have a chat with Sarah. We're going to talk about Atlantis. We're going to talk about Lemuria and the red crystals and all the chaos that was going on back then. Sarah is being a really hot commodity. She's all over Gaia right now, which is pretty cool. She's got a new show on Gaia with what's his name, Jimmy Church, which is really neat. I'm gonna watch that today if it's out. I think it's out. So yeah, we get to talk to Sarah about all those things on Monday. That'll be fun. And then on Tuesday, my ex-roommate is gonna be here. My friend Ellamore is coming. You guys are gonna love Ellamore. She's one of those people that are like an angel in human form. She's really lovely. She traveled all over with me for a long time, and she's doing a meditation class. So, and I laughed. I was like, "How much is your class?" She goes, $33. I was like, "Yeah, awesome." So she's teaching a really cool meditation class, and she's a lot of fun. So we'll have a chat with Ellamore on Tuesday. And Wednesday, Mr. Kale is going to be here. Kale, we're going to put you on the spot. Yes, Kale is going to come and he's going to do runes. It's going to be so much fun. Kale's going to teach us all about the runes. We've had some really exciting sessions lately. Kale's been doing runes for us. Thank you, Kale, by the way. I've been loving your rune readings. And they're so freaky spot on, you guys. And and Kale's gonna channel as well. Ooh, nice. We'll see which deities come through because Kale's been channeling all kinds of deities lately. It's pretty impressive. And on Thursday, I'm gonna have a paranormal investigator come. There's a guy in Florida for 40 years that's been he's a medium, but he also does the paranormal stuff, and he has a paranormal business down in Florida where he basically goes in and does clearings for people that have haunted activity in their vicinity. So he goes in and chases all the ghosties away, which is kind of cool. Probably sends them to the light. I don't know, being a medium, I guess we'll find out. He's going to be around on Thursday. So we're going to have a really exciting week next week. I'm very excited about it. Very happy. Joyce says, I've not been too well and dizzy for the last few weeks and started with ringing in my ears. Do you think it's something emotional or spiritual? It could be. The thing is, right, we've got all these new frequencies coming in and we're all kind of acclimating to them. So especially if there's we've had solar flares, we've had eclipses, we've had the new moon. There's a lot of, what else was there? There's a couple of retrogrades. There's a whole bunch of planetary stuff going on, which could be influencing you if you're an empath and you're highly sensitive. It could be the raising frequencies right now because, you know, that's what a lot of the ringing in the ears is. It's basically kind of like you're being tuned, you know, it's like an instrument that's being slightly tuned a little bit more. That's why we have the ringing in the ears. It could be also some things like the crystals could be off in your ears. We have crystals in our ears, guys. Lots of people have issues with their crystals, and that whenever their crystals get out of whack, the rest of their equilibrium is completely out of whack too. That actually happened to a friend of mine. She was so clumsy and she would fall over all the time, and she's not very well aware of her spatial, awareness, whatever you want to call it. And her crystals were off. Her balance was really bad because of it. So who knows? The thing is, it's hard to tell whether or not we're dealing with something physical or or metaphysical. Can we please talk about shamanic healing and how we can find the right shaman? Intuition. Honestly goes a long way when it comes to choosing a shaman. You need to speak with, or at least look into reviews or speak with other people that they've worked with, because there are, unfortunately, a lot of shamans who work for the other side too. So really it's a balance because, like I said, there's people who are more into the lighter side of things, people who are into the dark side of things, people who are kind of hanging out in the middle. And so when it comes to shamans, you have a very broad spectrum of people that you could choose to work with. I prefer to work with indigenous shamans because when I went to Peru, I got to meet quite a few of them, and they're very no nonsense. You know what I mean? They don't beat around the bush. They're very direct. They're very matter of fact. And I appreciate that about them. But you also do get, even unfortunately, a good friend of mine, for example, her name is Amber Lyon. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Amber Lyon, but she used to be a CNN journalist. Amber was there for the Deepwater Horizon spill. She did a documentary on Bahrain and a whole bunch of others. But Amber Lyon is actually a very good friend of mine. She and I chat on WhatsApp and Telegram all the time. But she's in Peru right now. It's a long story what happened with her. She did this documentary in Bahrain, and then, long story short, she found out that the Bahraini government sponsored the documentary, and she made it impartial, and it wasn't supposed to be impartial. It was supposed to be a fluff piece. And long story short, she got chased away from CNN because of it. And she went to Peru and she started working with various shamans down in Peru. And she is one of the main people that I speak to almost like on a couple, well, every few weeks or so, about what's going on down in Peru. And she was, filling me in about all the chaos that was happening a couple months ago. And so she works closely with shamans down there. And about half the shamans, maybe more, are very trustworthy, reliable, very loving, nature-centered shamans. And then you also have shamans who are just there to make money. There's a lot of them that see dollar signs when they know Americans want to come down there. They want to make a buck. And so they basically trick you into this retreat type of option where you go there and they shove about 20 of you into a room and give you a whole bunch of ayahuasca and other drugs. And then you don't really have a good trip and you wonder why. Well, that's what happened to me. Don't get me wrong. I had an amazing experience to some degrees, but I also learned why it's important to work with a shaman one-on-one. If you're going to go to a retreat and there's 15 other people there, you're going to miss out because honestly, there's a lot of gimmicks and there's a lot of people who are portraying themselves as shamans when they're not, because honestly, there's no shaman school, like college where they all go to and get an accreditation, so it's honestly much better if you can find an indigenous tribe that is open and receptive and willing to work closely with Americans who need help because most of them, it is a closed practice. Just keep in mind that many of them are very much are trying to protect their sacred knowledge. So you may have to have some patience when working with an indigenous shaman too, because they're going to put you through tests to make sure that you are actually as dedicated as you claim to be. All these happy birthdays. Oh, Jenny, happy birthday, Jenny. Oh, I love you, Jenny. You're so sweet. Happy birthday, Jenny. I hope you have a wonderful day today. That's exciting. Gotta love having a hot chocolate in the morning. That is definitely a birthday treat. I would love one myself. Lovely. That's very exciting. Mike says, Laura, my soul is tired. How can I recharge? Grounding isn't working. Have you scheduled an SRT? Because if you can't ground, there may be something trying to obstruct you from grounding. So just keep that in mind. Do a sovereignty check today, Mike. Sit in a contemplative moment for a little bit and just kind of suss out your own energy and get a feel for things and try and do a little bit of meditation. And when you feel that you're in that kind of Zen state, ask yourself, am I sovereign? Am I sovereign? Am I sovereign? You ask 3 times. And if you do not get a yes all 3 times, then I would definitely either, if you're saving for funds for an SRT, send me a message. And if you're unable to do it, then maybe next month when I get to class, and we are going to be doing case studies in class, I may be able to put some names in the hat. So just keep me in mind for that, Mike. By next month, if you don't get a chance to do an SRT, but I recommend having a salt bath. If you do the sovereignty check and you are unable to purchase an SRT session, okay, I recommend doing a salt bath. I recommend smudging your whole house and making sure that your whole house is clear. Do not forget to smudge under beds, in closets, in cabinets, in the bathroom, cupboards, you name it. Smudge everything, okay? Put some salt, sea salt especially around. And also, like I said, there's a few other things that you can do during meditation to kind of call in your soul guides and the archangels. Yes, smudging with sage. Sage is the best one, in my opinion. That's easiest access anyway. Yes, Andy's got a. Thank you, Stacy, for reminding me. I'll share that now if I can get my phone to turn on. What's your problem? I'm gonna go to Andy's website right now and share that with you guys. Andy Porter. If you go to andyporter.co.uk, there's a little dash between his name. You can go to audio meditations. See, he's got audio meditations on here. And there's a whole shitload of them. So I'm going to post this here. Just give me 1 second. And then you guys can access his meditations. He's got a bunch of different meditations on there. In fact, I'll read through some of the examples here. Daily protection and clearing meditation, meet your guides, past life regression, and spirit rescue meditation. And these have got a bunch more on YouTube. There's actually only 2 here that I see, but I've seen more. Where did I see more? Oh, under the video. That's where. Okay, so if you go to the videos tab that he has on his website too, as you can see, look, there's a whole bunch of Andy videos, and those are mostly meditations too. Some of them are interviews. Oh shit, he's got one about video gaming. Telling you all the evils of gaming. I'm a work in progress, guys, aren't we all? It's one thing to know what you're supposed to be doing, you know, and be like, okay, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad, and then just avoid all those things. But it's not easy to do when you've been intermingling for many years and doing those things, and it's become part of your personality and your favorite things to do, your favorite pastimes. But you know, it's funny. And even though Andy is against playing video games because he knows it opens portals and stuff, actually, you know, I've been having a wonderful time helping people and having conversations with people. You got to mingle with the muggles sometimes, you know, that's how we start waking people up. So even though there may be some areas where it's kind of risky business for us to be giving our attention to, I still feel like it happens for a reason. This is me defending my habits. But yeah, there's a lot. If you go on his YouTube, like I said, Andy's got his own YouTube channel. In fact, I'll even share that as well. And don't forget that Jono, we love Jono too. Jono also has his own YouTube channel. But I'm pretty sure Andy is the one that's got the most activity on YouTube so far. So I'm going to share his YouTube as well. So you guys can check out his YouTube channel. There it is. So I set big chunks of tourmaline in front of my Nintendo Switch. I have my Xbox right next to me, and I have big chunks of tourmaline all over it. I'm like, seriously, I'm not even kidding. Look, they're everywhere all over it. No portals in here. I even have a piece of shungite sitting on it too, so it's not just black tourmaline. Yes, his meditation on his webpage is great without commercials. Well, unfortunately, YouTube wore me down. I pay for the better YouTube now because that's all I really watch is YouTube. So I gave up all the other shit. Like the only one I keep for Aiden is Netflix. So I gave up all the other ones. So the only thing I care about is not being badgered by ads. Lava rocks are very protective. Yes, absolutely. I have some lava rock ones, and I also have, because you also get them. In fact, here, I'll just show you. 1 second. I have, where is it? Oh, here they are. Okay. So, you get 2 different kinds of lava rocks. You get this one, which has got the holes in it. You remember? These bracelets are pretty much everywhere these days, but you see, these ones are really good for protection as well. And this one comes with an ametrine, or not ametrine, oh my God, Amazonite. So that's a cool one. But then you also get these ones. This is obsidian right here. And I've got shungite on my hand. It makes my hand look black. I have shungite dust on my hand. So yeah, that is also what do you call it? That's obsidian. This is also lava stone, technically. I use black onyx too. I love black onyx. Black onyx is actually one of my, where is it? I just got a black onyx one. We're going to show you guys my crystal collection apparently today. Where is it? Oh, here it is. I got this on Etsy the other day for 20 bucks. Check this out. That's onyx. Look at that. The Kraken. Isn't that cool? I wore that to the High Lung concert. I love octopuses. I think they're awesome. So I couldn't help myself. When I saw they also had a labradorite one and it was only $20, I got the labradorite one too. Isn't that fucking cool? But black onyx has been used for protection for like 6,000 years. So black onyx is definitely a good one for protection, which is why I wore it to High Lung. So if you go on Etsy and you type in copper octopus, you'll find the lady that's making these. She lives in India, which is probably why they're so cheap, but they're really, really cool, huh? I thought that was neat. She does have some octopuses that don't have all 8 legs, though. So make sure you count your legs before you buy one. I was like, nope, I am not buying a 6-legged octopus. Yeah, check it out for gem shows, guys. Gem shows are where I get most of my crystals, to be honest, because you get some really impressive ones out there. But I also get them from gifts, like from Janet. Yeah, keep it next to me now. Gotta love crystals, guys, huh? Crystals are so much fun. Speaking of crystals, by the way, since Brandy is here, darling, hello, Brandy. Brandy and I will be teaching our final crystal class. Not crystal class. I'm getting ahead of myself here. Our final magic class on next Saturday at noon. In fact, I'm going to share the link in case any of you want to sign up because, like I said, Brandy and I worked really hard on this. We had a lot of fun writing the class, didn't we, Brandy? We've been trying to sneak in some more information too, so that way you guys can learn even more goodies this week, some new stuff. Basically, we discussed the history of magic, the difference between the types of magic, how to get involved in different types. So I did notice you signed up, Laura. Thank you very much. Looking forward to having you guys next Saturday. It's going to be good fun. Yeah, that was great. Honestly, we really enjoyed doing the class on Saturday. We had a lot of fun. We actually did a couple little protective spells while we were doing the class. And I showed how to use my what is it called? My my Jericho rose, which was really neat. In fact, it's really cool. But I don't know if you guys remember seeing last week, I had that Jericho rose. It like folds up like this. And then when you water it, it opens up like that and turns green. And then I've left it sitting on my counter ever since. And now it's doing this again. It's folding back up and turning brown again, which is really cool. I loved that thing. I thought that was so cool. Resurrection plants. Oh, it dries up very quickly. You only keep your Jericho rose wet for about, I think, 5 days, 6 days max, and then I have it all dried out again. It's in my kitchen. Otherwise, I would. So yeah, the Jericho rose is really neat. It's one of those resurrection plants that they use for spell work because it's a very powerful energy. And so when you get it in the mail, it's all dried up and kind of it looks like a tumbleweed that you might have picked up off the side of the road. But then you water it, and like I said, it completely unfurls and it looks kind of like a fern almost, and it turns green. It's really neat. Apparently they yeah, you got to take it out of the water after about 3 to 4 days, and then it's gonna curl back up and turn brown again. And mine is in the middle of curling up and turning brown again, which is cool, but I'll end up doing it again. Sure. In fact, I'll water it the day before class. I think that Friday I'm off too, so I'll do that during the live on Friday, and then on Saturday, the next day, you guys can see what it looks like. Because it takes a full 24 hours to unfurl like that and turn green again. But it's really neat. I mean, how fast. This goes to show that our deserts, many of them are actually ancient nuclear sites. Many of them were bombed by the ETs about 13,000 years ago, maybe even older. So they are very dry, desolate areas, but there's a lot of life forms that have evolved there over time, and the plants are exceptionally unique there. It's one of the reasons why I love the desert, because I think it's such a unique place. You have a brown thumb. Karen, you should totally get a Jericho rose. I'm telling you, it's the easiest thing. The only thing you have to remember is to take it out of the water after about 3 days. You can get them on Etsy for like $10. Yeah. I don't know how you propagate them, though. Like, it's one of the things I Googled about them. And ironically, there's a couple different types of Jericho roses. You get different species, different species, I guess you want to call it, of Jericho rose. Some are from Mexico, some are from the Middle East. And so, yeah, you get a whole bunch of different types of resurrection plants. Apparently, there's hundreds of resurrection plants. Like I said, plants that can live in a desert for hundreds of years. And then all of a sudden, the desert gets a shitload of water. And the next thing you know, the desert's just covered in plants. I love that. It happens a lot in South Africa, too. Another reason why South Africa is so unique, we have something called fynbos there. And fynbos has, I think, something like thousands and thousands of types of plants that are endemic only to that certain region of South Africa. So they have flowers that you'll never see anywhere else on earth but in the Southern Cape of South Africa, which is really, really cool. One of many reasons why I love South Africa so much. The unique plant and animal life is absolutely everywhere there. And it makes you wonder, like, how, if some of it had survived, like the floods from 13,000 years ago, if a lot of the plant and animal life were brought here from different races, like the Dogon people. They claim they came from Sirius and they brought a whole bunch of stuff, including cannabis. The Dogon people of Africa, West Africa, they claim that they brought cannabis with them. The Dog Star people, you should check out their history. It's a really unique place. And it's also interesting to note that some of our case studies, there was a Dogon demon attached to somebody. And if you know about the Dogon people, they have a very unique culture, because their culture it's all about these big masks, and they have these, what are they even called? I forget what they're called, but they're basically like these costume contraption things that end up moving on their own. And they claim that it's ETs and spirits that are moving them. So you never know. I think they really know their shit. And I'm pretty sure that they know that they didn't come here alone, if you know what I mean. So yeah, the Dogon people, they brought a lot, a lot of interesting things with them. And yes, weed is extraterrestrial. It was a gift. They say in the Bible, I've given you all what was it? I've given you all the, of course, as I'm about to say it, it goes out my brain. I have given you the cure to all diseases and plants or something like that. Yeah, that's the reason for that. They really did. The ETs were the ones that did that. They were the ones that brought all the plants here and were like, hey, you're going to need this. But to be fair, cannabis is kind of like what we did to dogs. Like, dogs didn't exist. There's wolves and wild canines that exist on other planets, but we made dogs. We actually designed dogs. So there's actually a lot of plants that exist on Earth that are also human made. Just keep that in mind, and cannabis is one of the biggest ones. There's something that they talk about called land races. And if you, what is it called? There's a YouTube channel and what is it called? It is a documentary, maybe? I don't know. But anyway, it's called Strain Hunters. And there's 3 people that are from South Africa and Amsterdam, and they go around finding the oldest seeds on Earth when it comes to cannabis. It's really unique. If you guys haven't checked it out yet before, check it out on YouTube if you're interested in this sort of thing. It's called Strain Hunters, and they go and looking for the oldest seeds on Earth. And the reason for that is because we have cross-pollinated and changed things so much. So that way, if you were to, let's say, take something like Durban poison, for example. Durban poison is one of the oldest original strains from South Africa. It's actually a very highly sought after strain. They have been changed. Lots of times, the thing with seeds, right, is that you can have a whole bunch of seeds that are, genetically identical, but then you bring one seed from an outside source and put it in the area, and then they cross-pollinate and they change things all the time. And that is why we have thousands and thousands and thousands of different types of cannabis now, is because they keep interbreeding different types together, just like we did dogs. And now we have all of these, and it's the same problem with dogs, the dogs are having breathing issues and health problems because they were interbred weird. Same thing with cannabis. So actually, that's why some of these landrace strains are so important, so they can go back to the start. And then, we can kind of, learn where we fucked up and fix it. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of things that kind of get our wires crossed and end up having either too strong or not enough certain types of. Because keep in mind, there's over like 400 different types of cannabinoids too. And each one of them are a specific type of medicine, and some strains may not have a certain type of cannabinoid, like CBN, for example. So, like this is why I say I I have no qualms about admitting that I like cannabis as a medicine because it has been used for 10,000 years as a medicine. And that's why it is the most genetically diverse plant on earth. I mean, and they're coming up with stupid names now for for these new strains like wedding cake, and purple smurf and weird shit, you know what I mean? They come up with for calling it names because there's so many different types that they just make up shit now every time they come up with something new. But one of my friends, his name is Soma. He actually lives in Amsterdam. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Soma, but he's the guy that literally genetically created Amnesia Haze. He's a really lovely guy. I've been to his house. I hung out with him and his Siberian forest cats. He's got like 15 Siberian forest cats in his 4-story Amsterdam house. And we talked for hours all about cannabis being a designer plant and all the things that came with it, the pros and the cons and things. And it was quite an eye-opening experience. I learned quite a lot from him about the different he called them breeds, different breeds of cannabis, because really that's what they are now. And so each strain is different, is different for a reason, because like I said, it's been bred different. And each type is different for a specific purpose. Like Charlotte's Web is my favorite strain, for example, because of all the children that are benefiting from it. If you guys have never heard of Charlotte's Web strain, you should Google it and see what happened there, because wow, what a story that is. I mean, it's quite a tearjerker. But there was a little girl who had severe seizures, like 300 seizures a week. And if it wasn't for the cannabis that she was given that had no THC in it, remember, certain cannabinoids can be bred up or down. And this type of strain had no THC in it. So they thought it would be safer for children, no buzz. And so Charlotte, her name is Charlotte Figge. Long story short, she had a twin sister who was completely healthy, but poor Charlotte was dealing with all of these seizures every week. And it wasn't until her doctors were like, oh, well, we can try, dog medicine because nothing else is working. And her parents were like, now you're going to put her on dog medicine? Like, this is crazy. So they actually went and found a strain in Colorado, like I said, that had no THC in it. And they were like, oh, we need this. Like, we're going to make some medicine out of this. And they did. And all her seizures went away, guys. She went down to 1 seizure a week. And so she was actually like, this, keep in mind that started when she was born. Okay. So she had so many seizures. She never learned how to walk, how to speak. She was like 5 or 6 years old when they finally got her the right medicine. And it changed her whole life. Like I said, she was actually able to start learning how to be a person. And it's very heartbreaking because Charlotte passed away from COVID a couple of years ago. But her strain, because of Charlotte, there are now thousands of children that are taking it for seizures. And those seizures are almost non-existent now. And so remember what we've said about seizures too, because, this is what we've learned from spirit release therapy and through hypnosis, is that a lot of times these seizures are caused by what's the word? Of course, as I'm just about to say it again, it's gone out of my brain today. Today is one of those days. So anyway, long story short, we have a signal that's being sent to our body. You're not in your physical body, right? And so you're basically sending a signal from wherever you're coming from, whether it's source, the higher dimensions, a pod on a ship, whatever, wherever your consciousness signal is coming from. And it's being rerouted down to your physical body, okay? And that stream of energy, that consciousness is coming through. If it gets interrupted, then you start having seizures. You start glitching. You know what I mean? So if something is interrupting your signal, and it could be anything from an entity in your space, It could be, some kind of another living, I shouldn't even call it living because sometimes they're dead. There could be creatures in your space. These elemental beings, they can, like the astral parasites we talk about, they can cause those glitches. They can get in the way of your signal that's coming in. So can all kinds of other issues. But there can also be, what was the word for it? Neurological issues when it comes to misfirings in the brain. So either way, cannabis actually tends to correct both problems, which is why it works so well. So it stops with the interference and it helps make the connections. So that is why it is one of the most powerful medicines in the world when it comes to seizures, and not just seizures. We're talking Parkinson's. Anytime that you don't have full control over your body, it helps you to regain that control. So, and yes, it can be edibles. It doesn't have to be, it can be oil. A lot of children are taking it in cookie form. I'm not even kidding. And these medical dispensaries, you don't have them here in Pennsylvania because they don't allow edibles here for sale here. You have to make your own. I have my own medical license. So for the record, nobody can get me any shit for talking about this. But yeah, there's a lot of different issues that cannabis can correct, which is one of the reasons why when I was living in South Africa, I worked with several people who were very popular growers, who were very much into the producing medicine thing, because there's so many people that are off grid and still want to heal their issues. And so medical cannabis in South Africa is a huge deal. I mean, it is absolutely massive. And here in the US, it's getting bigger and bigger. We're talking like $1 billion business. Everything, to answer your question, Danielle, she says, is the CBD that's healing. Everything about it is healing in certain aspects. When it comes to each type of cannabinoid, they each have a specific type of reaction that can take place from it. THC is the main one that we've studied the most. That's the one that gives you the buzz or the high, or it raises your vibration. So long story short, and this is some way that a shaman explained this to me, because I asked him about cannabis and whether or not it's a good thing or a bad thing. And he explained to me that cannabis will, if you smoke cannabis, right, you will raise your vibration to that of the plant. Okay. So everything in life has a vibration to it. Crystals, plants, trees, you name it, right? So if you imbibe something that has a certain vibration, whether it's coffee, which has a high vibration, it gives you a very quick boost of energy, but it also will lower your vibration when it starts to wear off, because, your body gets used to it. So with cannabis, if you are, let's say you're really depressed and you're angry and you're upset about something and you smoke, that will raise your vibration back up. So obviously you were in a low vibration. This is why people use it for depression. This is why it's so effective for depression, because if you're feeling down here and the plant's vibration is up here, when you smoke it, you go up to here. But let's say that you are, and this is what the shaman explained to me, just for the record. Okay. I didn't make this up. This is just what I was told. If this doesn't resonate, then who knows? But anyway, I'm just repeating what I was told. So the shaman explained that if you are in a naturally high vibratory state, let's say that you're a starseed in a really good mood, right? And then you take cannabis and you smoke and you're already up here, okay? And the cannabis vibration is here. So what happens? You lower your vibration to that of the plant. And so that's why it can make you tired. It can make you a bit like, it can actually lower your vibration. So this is why it can be used as a crutch. So that way, if you are depressed and going through some really heavy shit and you just want to relax and de-stress and make your life feel not as bad as it is, that's why a lot of people use cannabis. That's why I used it for so many years, because everything was shit and it made me not care as much. But that's also why it's not as good too, because it's a crutch. If we just smoke our problems away, then we're not going to fix the problems, and it ends up keeping us stuck longer. So there is a very delicate balance. It should be used for ritual purposes. And I know I'm a hypocrite saying that, because I don't use it myself all the time for ritual purposes either. I also use it for recreation. But the problem is, when you use it for recreation, is that's when you're opening the door to entity attachments, because there's always going to be somebody who's trying to ride your gravy train. There's always going to be somebody who wants to share your buzz. So unfortunately, anything that gives you a buzz, it doesn't even matter if it's coffee or cigarettes, it can cause entity attachments. So just be aware that everything you do, there is a place for it, and there should be protection with it. And it should always be something that is, you're mindful of whether or not it's doing good for you or bad for you. Because I have noticed that if it's starting to make me lazy, that's when I take a break. I quit for a week or two and just be like, but that's when my dreams get hectic. I have some really horrible dreams. Oh man, it was so funny. Last time, and I swore I'd never do this again. I already mentioned this like a week or two ago, but I gave up potatoes and weed at the same time. And oh my God, all my dreams were about fucking potatoes. They were all my dreams. Every night was about potatoes. It was horrible. I was so mad. I would wake up craving hash browns and going crazy. So yeah, I won't be quitting carbs and weed at the same time again. That's for sure. So any questions while you guys got me off on my favorite plant? It will always be my favorite plant. I don't really care what the Taygetians or anybody else says. It has benefited my life in probably 1,000 different ways when it comes to meeting people, when it comes to keeping me here without trying to jump off a short pier, if you know what I mean. When it comes to just making life easier on Earth, hands down, cannabis is the best plant for that. But it can also make your life a lot harder. It can make your life miserable if you end up over abusing it, or if you end up getting caught with it in the wrong situation. Oh my God, I'll never forget the time my mom caught me smoking on the deck. My mom was living in Texas at the time, and I bribed our pool boy because, if you're looking for weed and you can never find any, then just ask a pool boy because it's always effective. So the pool boy came over and I was like, hey, bro, can you hook me up? And he did. And my mom caught me the next day smoking down on the dock. There was a squirrel, right? The squirrel was just hanging around. He was underneath my chair. And I'm looking down at the squirrel and I'm like, what are you doing, Mr. Squirrel? And I'm just like, oh. And then I look up and I see my mother, who, for the record, is an ex-sheriff deputy. And she's looking at me like this. I was like, oh, shit. And she came on, she goes, where did you get that? And I was like, oh, I wasn't going to rat out my friend or anything. So she's like, oh, I found it. She's like, you lied to me. You didn't find it. So long story short, not even a year later, right? She was, like I said, she went completely nuts about it. Oh my God, so much drama. She accused all my step siblings of getting it for me. This was a couple years ago, right? So the next thing I know, her husband, my stepdad, he goes to the psychiatrist because he's got drinking problems. And what does the psychiatrist recommend? He recommends switching it up. He says, you need to stop alcohol. But what, have you ever tried cannabis? And this is Texas, where it's still illegal to this day. His own therapist was like, alcohol is really bad for you, but you could switch it up if you want, and that would be better for you. And so the next thing you know, I come back to Texas and my mom's like, so where did you get it? I was like, I'm not telling you. I don't snitch. I don't ever snitch. And my mom's like, well, come on, hook me up. And I'm like, no, you yelled at me. You caused so much trouble. You got me so, like so much drama over that. And not even like a year later, she's asking me for my source so she can get my stepdad's son. And I'm like, man, the times are changing, aren't they? Oh, so funny. So that's why, honestly, to each their own. That's my attitude. Only you know if something is benefiting you or biting you in the ass. So don't let anybody ever tell you that. In fact, in my opinion, we know what's best for us. We all have a reason for why we do what we do. So, it is what it is. It's why I don't, this is why I keep to myself about these things normally, but this is also why I don't mind defending my habits, because I have them for a reason. And not, to be honest, though, I actually have enjoyed myself being a smoker my entire adulthood. I'm not even going to lie. I was a judge in the Cannabis Cup. I went to Amsterdam and I got to judge all the best strains in the world. Thank you very much. So, it's like I said, if I'm not your cup of tea, then go find another cup of tea somewhere else. But as I can see, most of you, we're all vibing for reasons, because many of you have already been through the shit. Many of you have been dealing with the same shit that I have for years. So Can too much block astral projection? Abso-fucking-lutely. Smoking too much cannabis will absolutely put a damper on your astral projection practice, without a doubt. It's a dream suppressant. That's why I don't dream when I smoke. So honestly, but that's why I go for, these breaks every once in a while, and I go a couple weeks without it, and that's when all the dreams come back like you would not believe. So if you are practicing astral projection and you're not succeeding, give it up for a couple weeks, and I guarantee that you're going to have more success. Did you know that you can use hemp to isolate homes and you can't mold? I have actually was involved I'm not even kidding when I say I was heavily involved in the cannabis stuff over in South Africa. Like I said, I was good friends with one of the guys. It's a long story, but anyway, I won't even go down that road right now because it's negative. But one of the biggest things in South Africa for cannabis is the hemp house in Cape Town. There is a house in Cape Town that is from the ground up, literally from the ground to the roof, 100% hemp, or at least has some hemp in the products that are in there. So the entire house is made from hemp and hemp byproducts, basically. The rugs, the walls, the everything. I'm pretty sure they didn't even need to use rafters. I'm pretty sure that they built it without having need for the big, the big thick ones. The entire house, like, it's a gorgeous, gorgeous house. You would never know that it was made from hemp. And that's my goal in life, honestly, is to have a hemp house. But they're so freaking expensive here in the US. And this is the thing, right? This is part of the problem of the system, because everybody could be growing their own houses. Everybody could be, okay? All you need in order for hempcrete is hemp, lye, and water in the right, proportions. And if you know how to do it correctly, you can make a house completely out of hemp that is resistant to mold and parasites. And there was a guy that had a hemp wall in Amsterdam during the Cannabis Cup, ironically. And so it's funny I mentioned it, but he had a hemp wall that was like, I think 4 foot by 3 foot, and he had a, what do you call it? A blowtorch that was at the bottom of it. And he had a blowtorch sitting on this wall for over 2 hours, and the wall wasn't burning. It was literally just having like an ashy circle where he was burning. That was it. Like, can you imagine? There are certain areas in South Africa that have been devastated by fire. I mean, we're talking whole towns decimated. I was in a town that nearly lost everything. In fact, I'm very lucky. I moved to a place called Plettenberg Bay, not even a month before Plet had the worst fires in 100 years. And we thought our house was going to burn down. It was a little scary, I'm not going to lie. So I can only imagine how much safer people would feel in a fireproof house. You know what I mean? Like, we should be growing hemp in Maui and rebuilding, buildings that are fireproof. But that is where common sense would prevail. And unfortunately, we don't have a lot of common sense when it comes to the system that we're in, because unfortunately, the system is just designed to keep us using shit that's not very good for us. Like concrete, for example. Yes, they talk about concrete lowering your vibration, which is one of the reasons why there's a couple places in South Africa which are really strange, right? There's this place, it's a war memorial. I forget what it's called, of course, today, because my brain isn't working today, but the entire monument is a giant obelisk, and the obelisk is made of concrete, but the entire concrete all through it is quartz. They mixed quartz with concrete, very high vibe quartz too, because it's pure, clear quartz throughout the entire structure. So I don't know. There's some weird shit that they're doing in South Africa. Probably because the British have it. I asked about what strain of cannabis would be good for FND. That is where the brain glitches in communicating with the nervous system due to stress, trauma, etc. Most of the time when it comes to those issues, it's better to eat it than to smoke it. Most people are using RSO, which is Rick Simpson oil, or other forms of it. Yes, hemp house is fireproof, just for the record. It's just answering questions here, sorry, as I'm reading through it. There are I forget what the name of the website is. Let me see if I can find it. But there's a website that talks about all the different benefits of each strain. Um, I'll see if I can find it because now they're only gonna, of course, the one that I quick Google is only gonna show me the difference between indica and sativa. But there's actually like an actual what is it called? A database where they list all the different strains and what they're most commonly used for. Um, so there's a lot, for example, like I said, the high CBD ones would be more for pain and other neurological problems. But even though, like Parkinson's, for example, you can take both. You could either smoke it or eat it. There's a guy that he has a very I forget, large following on YouTube. Of course, I can't remember his name either today because my brain is not working. But he's got a huge following. He's got Parkinson's and he's almost like immobile. Like he can't move. Like his body is doing this all the time, you know? And when he smokes, he immediately calms down. You can see his shaking almost goes non-existent. It's amazing to see how fast and effective it is because, like I said, there are people that have been struggling for 20 years that haven't been able to even feed themselves. They have to invent new spoons because they can't even hold the spoon, you know? And then the next thing you know, they're smoking one little joint and then all of their issues go away for 2 hours. And it's amazing that it took us like 100 years to get back here because we were using these medicines 100 years ago. Edgar Casey, for example, if you guys ever know about Edgar Casey, the sleeping prophet, he used to give people medical diagnoses through hypnosis. Cannabis was one of the biggest things that he would prescribe people. There was a lot of it used back then because it was used for all kinds of stuff. And it still would be today if we hadn't banned it. And half the reason we banned it is because they just wanted to profit from it. You know, imagine how much if people could found out that they could cure their own cancer just by growing medicine in their backyard. Do you think we would be giving billions of dollars to the cancer industry? Of course not. So one of the biggest things about this is because of, you know, just the fact that it has these huge medical implications for the medical industry, and it would cause all kinds of problems. Uh, Dry herb vaping or tinctures are the best delivery. I'm not surprised by that. Yep, tinctures are really good. Tinctures are probably one of the best in general, just because, like I said, if eating cannabis doesn't have the same attachments, I believe, anyway, I'm not sure, but I believe it's safer. So if you're worried about picking up some kind of an earthbound or something, I'm pretty sure that eating it is actually a lot safer than smoking it. But this is also why I talk about these things, because nobody else is really talking about this shit. At least not in our circles. There's not a lot of spiritual people who are talking about these things. Maybe there is, and I just haven't seen them around. But in most cases that I've noticed, it's mostly men who are talking about psychedelics and spirituality and plant medicine and that sort of thing. But when it comes to plant medicine, we tend to ignore the illegal ones because we're concerned about getting in trouble. But there are many, many very powerful ones that were made illegal because they're powerful, because they work so well. So, you know, we can't keep our mouths shut, even though we may upset some people and ruffle some feathers. Just reading through some of these comments here. I've never heard of a LifeWave patch. So that is news for me. Is that a new thing? Yes, like killing dandelions. Thank you, Vicky. You know, that's one of my biggest pet peeves. I really do. When people spray dandelions, oh, it makes me so mad. Dandelions are one of the most important plants in the whole world. The entire plant is important for medicine. I'm not even kidding. Everything from the root to the flower to everything about dandelions. They are so, so good for medicine. And unfortunately, you know, people just poison them. It's like, oh my God. Yeah, totally agree with you on that, Vicky. They're supposed to stimulate your own stem cells to repair the body. Interesting. I did not know that. That's a big thing these days, stem cells. The ETs use stem cells like crazy, you guys. It is quite a big deal that we're using stem cells nowadays because, like I said, that's ET technology. We got that from the ETs, without a doubt. I'm not sure who, but that is without a doubt ET technology. Dandelion tea tastes like shit. It really does. I'm not a fan of bitter stuff. But you know what they say? Like, if it's bitter, it's better for your liver. If they say, what was the saying? Bitter is better for the liver and sweet is toxic for the liver or something like that. I can't remember. But anyway, they say that anything that's really bitter is really good for your liver and your kidneys and stuff. So a lot of times they tell you to eat things like arugula. And even though it does taste kind of spicy, it's good for you. Hi, Tony. I didn't know you were here, bud. You're working at the cotton factory today. Oh, what? The problem with eating cannabis is that you have to wait for it to digest to be absorbed, and then an F&D attack comes out of nowhere. You need something much quicker. That makes a lot of sense, Lori. Absolutely. So that's why probably the vape pens are probably really good to go with it. If you put ginger in dandelion, it's much nicer tea. I didn't know that. I'm a huge fan of ginger. Thank you, Blossom. I love that idea. I'm going to try some actually now. Because I go to a farmer's market and the farmer's market has all of these wonderful things in there. And I never really know what to do with them. So I don't buy them too often because I don't want it to go to waste. So that's a great tip. Thank you. Dandelions follow humans. All plants that follow humans have medicine to offer. By following humans, I mean wherever there's development and disturbance, the weeds that sprout up. I love that, Catherine. Thank you so much for sharing that. I love that. That's going to stay with me. I'm going to think of that now more often when I'm looking at weeds. Because honestly, you know, most of the things that we're trying to kill in our yards because they aren't, you know, just grass are, like she says, extremely powerful for medicinal purposes. Lots of them are. And I feel like that's part of the reason why they don't want us to use them. You know what I mean? Like there must have been some kind of a campaign where they were like, no, you got to kill all dandelions. Dandelions are evil. You know what I mean? Like I bet you know, Monsanto or somebody was responsible for that because they're all like, oh, you can't have these in your yards. Even a yard, okay? Even a yard itself is a 17th century status symbol. It was basically a way of showing people that you're so rich that you don't need to use your land for food. So for you to have a perfectly manicured yard, that was a way of showing off as an elitist. Okay? So for them to be trying to force that on everyday people is insane. It really is. It's absolutely just mindless thinking. So most of the plants that we have that they are trying to tell us to get rid of, they're telling us to get rid of them for a fucking reason. And it's not a good reason. And Paula says you can't patent a plant. Well, you can patent a plant if you make it yourself. So if you crossbreed a plant, like we were talking earlier, with all of these specific types of cannabis strains, you know, we start with 12 different types from around the world. And the next thing you know, we end up with 2,400, or actually might be more like 24,000 nowadays. And that's why. It's because, you know, they're mixing and breeding things. So if you were to create a plant yourself, like let's say a seedless watermelon, you can patent that because it's not found originally in nature. It's some kind of GMO that you created either through cross-pollination or through like actual lab work. You know, where they're splitting shit like tomatoes and fish together to make new plants. Like, I don't even know why they would do that. That is literally a thing they're doing, is they're putting fish genes in tomatoes. Like, why? Like I said, and then they're going to patent it and be like, oh, I'm very proud of this thing I've created, my fish tomato. Fucking stupid. This is why heirlooms are so important and why we should all just be growing heirlooms absolutely everywhere. Clover. Perfect example. In fact, I'm even going to highlight your comment, Catherine. Bam. Clover is the perfect example. I love red clover. I think red clover is one of the prettiest things ever. I actually want, because I would love to have a red clover yard. I really would. I think red clover is so pretty. So, yep. Yep. Clover is highly medicinal. All kinds of stuff, especially red clover. But that's, this is the thing. If they are to patent all of these fruits and veggies that they're making, like cotton candy, grapes, and shit, they can patent that and then they can control who's allowed to grow it and who's not. And every person that ends up buying their seeds kind of ends up getting stuck. This is why, in India, there's something that they call GMO genocide. If you Google GMO genocide India, you'll see what I'm talking about. Even Prince Charles, or I should say King Charles now, got involved with it because 30,000 farmers killed themselves. I probably need to be more careful saying how I'm saying that, but that's why. It's because all their crops failed. Monsanto went over into India and basically told all the farmers, hey, we've got these seeds. They're much less likely to fail. They need less water, blah, blah, blah. The only downside is that you're going to have to buy seeds from us every year. And the Indian people were like, yeah, sure, I'll do it, So they end up giving pretty much like all of this money, buying up seeds and getting into their, what do you call it? Their system of growing, because they have this whole big setup over there, and almost all their crops failed. I mean, thousands, tens of thousands of people lost everything, absolutely everything. And so what did they do? They started drinking their own pesticides because the pesticides were free from Monsanto, or I shouldn't even say free, but reduced rate. So they had all of this pesticide they couldn't use because their crops failed. And what did they do? Yeah. So, Monsanto has a lot to answer for. And this is why they keep buying up different companies and they start changing their names. They'll change their name to Bayer or whatever. They change their stuff all the time. And they're trying to do it very stealthy-like. And it's because there are so many people that have been influenced by their really, really shady business practices. Yeah, a lot of them, as Lindsay said, a lot of them saw no other way out. So taking their own life was the only option. And so, I feel like that was also done by design, because who sweeps in when the farmer takes his own life? The big conglomerates come in and take over their land. So anyway, I wasn't planning to talk about seeds and plants today, but hey, why not? Has anyone seen the show Upload? It is putting it all out there. One episode about pig farmers growing pink cancer blobs instead. Oh man, I try not to watch those for some. I already, I'm pretty good about how I do my shopping. I mostly buy from the Amish or from, farmers markets in the area. And so I try to be very careful about never ever buying anything commercial, So even if my kid, like we're driving past McDonald's and he knows not to ask, because you're going to get a no, kid, sorry. Maybe on your birthday we'll talk, but this is why, you're voting for the kind of world you want with every dollar you spend. So unfortunately, if you're going to go to the store and buy things that are GMO products that are, from some of these big, what are they called? Factory farms, that's just perpetuating the problem. So that's why we really do need to support local farmers and people who are keeping heirlooms going. One of my favorite videos was this farmer guy. He started to go around collecting all the old apple seeds, and he saved like 80 different apple seeds, because what he does is most people only buy like I think 5 or 6 types of apples, right? Nowadays it's always like the Gala or the Crimson or the Granny Smith. You only really see about 5 or 6 types of apples. Most people don't realize that apples are one of the oldest fruits on earth, and there are thousands of variations of apples out there, but you only see 5 now, right? So, my favorite apple isn't even one of them. My favorite apple in the whole world is called a Braeburn. It's actually a New Zealand apple. It was an apple they found just growing on the side of the road one day in New Zealand. And they're like, I've never seen an apple like this before. So, they started propagating it. And long story short, it's a very bitter, it's like very sweet. Sorry, not sweet, sour apple. So, but you can't find it. I actually have to drive 2 hours south to find a farm with Braeburn apples, and I do. At the end of October, in fact, I probably go next week, when they're ready, because they don't get ready until the end of October. That's when I go looking for my Braeburn apples. And so that's the thing, you guys, is that's why we have to protect people like that farmer who saved 80 different types of apples. He traveled all over the US going to defunct farms and places where he was going in apple orchards that haven't been used for commercial purposes in over 150 years. And he found these heirloom apple seeds and he started growing them again. And you won't believe how amazing these other apples are. The fact that they're gone blows my mind. I mean, these apples, he was explaining all the different types. You cut one open and there's a beautiful star on the inside and a whole bunch of different really neat ones, but they're not as fancy as the GMO ones. You know, they go brown faster. They have a lot of watermarks and bug marks on the outside. They're the best for baking and eating that you will ever have. But for some reason, they're not in our supermarkets. Like, why? Well, that's why, because they don't want us eating the good shit. They want us eating all the crap. So anytime that you are able to, oh, there we go. Perfect, Catherine. Perfect comment to there. See, I'm a librarian. I started a seed library at my library full of heirlooms, land races, indigenous plants, and inspiring people to grow their own food and add diversity to their diets. Exactly what we all should be doing, really. Amen to that, Catherine. Thank you for sharing that. And that is what we should all be doing. We really should. Everybody give Catherine's comment a like for me, please. I can't like it on my laptop. Thank you. Because honestly, that's if I had any other pastime that I could afford to do with my time, my non-existent time schedule, that's what I would be doing, is I would be protecting heirlooms, land races, and indigenous plants. Absolutely. 100%. Because it's probably the most important thing. Other than protecting our water, this is the most important thing to focus on. Because like I said, they're bastardizing all our food. They're changing shit for no reason. Oh, I shouldn't say no reason, but no good reason. You know, they're just trying to make us sicker and weaker and more susceptible to their bullshit diseases and things they're putting out there. So this is why it's very important to have a very diverse diet. Okay. You should be eating reds, greens, blues, purples, all the colors of this rainbow in your food. So when you go to the grocery store and you're trying to buy healthy stuff, shop by colors. That's what I do. I try and make sure that I have at least one of every color in my meal. And, you know, whether or not it's going to be purple potatoes, or I have purple cauliflower in my fridge right now. I love purple cauliflower. So, you know, it's just one of those things. You got to mix it up. You can't just eat the same stuff all the time. Your body needs variations. I was just reading about a guy who jars water. I'm not surprised. That's the thing. You know, water is becoming very polluted. Big time. And that's why a lot of people are switching to reverse osmosis, but then you don't get all the nutrients from the water you're supposed to get. So you're supposed to add Himalayan salt or something else to it so you can get the nutrients back. There's a lot going on with water nowadays. It really is. Water is going to be becoming one of the most important resources. It already is the most important resource on Earth, but it's going to become one of the most protected assets. You know what I mean? Like whoever holds the water has the power, really, if you think about it. Especially in places where water is even more of an important resource, like in South Africa. Big thing for water there. My God, you won't believe what goes on with water in South Africa. It's unbelievable, especially when there's any drought conditions. Man, they could shut your water off most of the day if they want to. They can tell you literally just bathe in a bucket. And they do. And they'll tell you all that all the time in South Africa. They'll be like, nope, we have a water shortage. You're all allowed to use 1 bucket of water per day, and that's it. It's like, what? So, you know, this is one of the things that if you grew up somewhere like Britain, you know, or in places where you get a lot of rain, you don't really think about water being an important commodity, but it is. And seeds are going to be even more of an important commodity because, like I said, when you wreck something with too much fucking around, you have to go back to the start, kind of like we did with cannabis in the land races. So this is what's happening with our food too. People are not going to enjoy having, cotton candy, freaking grapes forever. There's going to be a point where we're like, okay, where do we go back to the original grapes so we can have those again? Nobody's going to want this shit that they're putting out these days. They're just doing it for gimmicks in most cases, like you get the muggles who go into a grocery store and be like, I love cotton candy grapes, and even though it's full of sugar and doesn't actually taste like a grape, they're happy. So that's why the people that are buying the heirlooms and the ones that are refusing to buy that crap are so important. We need to be heard too. I did see them, and I know that they're actually not a GMO plant, that those grapes are actually from cross-pollination, but they're still too weird for me. I'm all set with that. Thank you. Honestly, you can come up with any kind of gimmick these days and people are going to buy it. So you can come up with a tomato that tastes like a cheeseburger or something and people are going to be like, oh, yeah, I'll buy it. They don't care, like anything unique and different is like, it's in nowadays. So unfortunately, this is why people like us who are these old fuddy-duddies and be like, I want my original grapes, we are very important too, because otherwise all the grapes would end up being freaking bastardized grapes. So we need to demand our heirlooms. We need to be like, no, I don't want your crap. I want the good stuff. Don't mind my rant today. This is something I'm passionate about, guys. I really am. I grew up on a farm, and I grew up around other farmers. And growing up on a farm, you have a very different opinion as to where your food comes from. We raised our own pigs. We raised our own chickens. It's one of those things. You have to appreciate where your food comes from. If you don't appreciate where your food comes from, then you don't understand what your food is, what's being sacrificed for you. So, this is one of the things where everything in life, it doesn't matter if it's a pig or a carrot, it sacrificed its life so you could sustain yourself. So appreciate it. It doesn't matter if it's a carrot or a pig or a cow or an apple. It is something that was gifted to you from the universe in order for you to sustain yourself. So appreciate it. Always give thanks. This is why, it's one of those things where this is one of the best things that came out of Christianity, in my opinion, is when they say blessings. When they are at the table and they give thanks for their food and they're blessing their food, that is probably one of the best things that Christians do, honestly, because they are giving thanks for their food. It's a very powerful vibration in order to give a blessing and to give thanks. And to Reiki your food. Exactly, Memento. Thank you. Yes, Reiki your food. You should Reiki everything that goes into your body. And it's very easy to do. This is what I learned from my Reiki master teacher in France. She's hilarious, by the way. Oh my God, her name is Girda. And Girda, I met her, it's a long story, but she lives in Rennes-le-Chateau, and she's a level 3 Reiki master. And she drinks like a fish, bless her. She every morning it's something, whether we're having mimosas or we're having wine, and for lunch it would be some kind of a cordial. All day long she was drinking. And she went to her doctor and she said something to her doctor, and her doctor was like, you have the liver of a non-drinker. I don't understand. Because he was actually giving her shit about how much she was drinking. But when they checked her liver, it was completely healthy. And the doctor was like, what the hell? Like, how is your liver like perfect health? Like, I don't understand. And she laughed and she said, I Reiki everything. She does. She Reikis everything. I watch her do it. When we were sitting at the dinner table, she would go over, she would put her hand over it and she would bless it. And she would say, I give thanks for this cup of tea. And this cup of tea is only going to benefit me for my highest good. Everything that she ate. Everything, literally everything. So no matter what went into her body, she blessed it first. And because of that, I'm telling you, like I said, she was in perfect health, even though she, like I said, she drank like a fish. I mean, she's French, well, half French, half German. So it's just part of their culture, especially being half French, half German. I'm not surprised that she drinks as much as she does. But that's just the thing. Like I said, if you Reiki it, and you say it's only going to serve me to my highest good, you can actually raise the vibration of your food and even get rid of some of the not so nice things that might be in there, or at least render them less damaging, like sugar, for example. So, oh yeah, because of her vibration and her healthy attitude healthy attitude towards food, no negative thoughts attached. I really feel like that's probably the key thing and why it works so well and so effectively. She truly believes in it. And when you truly believe in something, you manifest. Belief is extremely powerful. So that's why you will meet somebody who's like 102 years old and they still smoke and drink like, like crazy. And that's because they just feel, hey, there's nothing wrong with this. This is healthy for me. So you can actually lie to yourself and convince yourself that something is healthy when it isn't, depending on the circumstances, of course, obviously. Mind over matter. Listen to and buy from your local indigenous farmers. They know the local plants, they know the land, they know the medicine. Also, Seed Savers Exchange, Baker Creek. I love Baker Creek. I get their big, what do you call it? Their big catalog every year. And I dance around like a happy fairy every time it arrives. I really love Baker's Creek and their heirloom seeds. Am I drinking tea or coffee? I don't drink coffee. Coffee is a drug. I don't do drugs. No, but I really do just drink tea. I don't really drink coffee very often. If I do drink coffee, it's because I'm trying to keep myself awake. So I use it like you would use other stimulants. Yeah. No, coffee, honestly, I don't like the aftertaste either. So that's one of the reasons why I don't drink coffee. But as I've said before, my mom was severely addicted to coffee growing up, and I saw what she was like without her coffee. So I was like, no, that will not be me. So I really did avoid coffee. All my friends would be drinking a fancy cappuccino or something, and I'd be like, nope, I'm not interested. And I realized that tea also has caffeine, but coffee, if I drink a cup of coffee, I'm up all night. I really am. So I can't drink coffee after like 2 p.m. or I will be up until midnight. It's so weird. You have thousands of dollars of Baker's Creek seeds in storage, Lisa? Really? Buddy. Pal. Let's start some shit. I absolutely love doing seed trades. I really do. I one of my favorite things would be to start a community garden and have a whole bunch of people. But I live in the boonies, and everybody all has their own garden. So, community gardens are a big thing, and especially in places like London. One of my friends, her name is Christine. I call her my British mom, but I'm going to go visit her next month actually, and she has what they call an allotment. Allotments are basically like an area in your town that has been donated to the community so that people who don't have a yard can grow their own food. So it's like a community garden type of thing. And oh my God, I love it. It's such a great idea. Allotments are amazing because everybody's trading food. If you grow too many peppers, for example, you can trade with somebody else's tomatoes. It's one of the best parts of doing it. And I think like one of the most important things for raising children is also getting them to get to know nature, spend time in the dirt, get them to plant stuff, water stuff, get it to grow, get them to weed. So, Aiden, he helps me out in the garden all the time. It does drive me a little crazy sometimes, tell him to do something and he just ignores me and goes off and does his own thing. But that's what kids are like. And you got to start them early on. So that way they have an appreciation for being out in the garden and they're not so fucking lazy expecting their food to just end up on a plate magically in front of them. One of the most important things about raising children is to teach them how the food got to the plate in the first place. You meet children who think that chicken comes from a grocery store nowadays. And it's like, no, children, drop my crystal. Or many of us are kind of desensitized to food, where you go into a grocery store and you pick it up and you just go home and take it. We didn't have to hunt and forage for it like we have for the last 13,000 years. So we have become kind of complacent in a way where we are relying on other people for our own self-sustainability. And that can be kind of risky. It really can, especially when you're living under a tyrannical government that can pull the rug out from underneath you at any time. I'm just saying. That's just kind of how it is. We have a lot of fixing to do in this country. And unfortunately, many of these most important things that we need to fix are just going back to how we used to do things 100 years ago. Keeping a pantry full of food, learning how to store food properly. Many people are not very, I don't even know how we lost so much knowledge in 100 years. I mean, if you didn't store your food and learn how to actually keep things from spoiling 100 years ago, you would starve. You would go hungry. And so, this is why many of us are kind of what's the word? Dependent on the system being the way it is. And it's a broken system. So the more we're dependent on a broken system, the more we are going to be left open to disasters and other things that could occur where we can't go to the grocery store and just pick up the shit we need. So any form of self-sustainability, even if it's just growing one tomato plant for yourself, okay, just one plant that will feed you something is a start. Because honestly, this is something that we have had robbed from us. So much knowledge gets taken away from us. And the reason for that is because they don't want us to have that knowledge. So because they don't want us to have it, we have a duty to educate ourselves and to regain that knowledge. So for me, I've started with dehydrating. I've just started dehydrating everything. If I actually had enough money to save up for a freeze dryer, I would totally do it, because freeze drying food is probably the best way to be able to, you can make anything. You can make a soup or whatever, freeze dry it, and then you're good to go. If any shit hits the fan, as long as you have water and a way to heat it, you're fine. So self-sustainability is one of the biggest things. And also, yes, responsibly foraging. Thank you, Catherine. You're so full of knowledge today. I love it. Absolutely. Learning how to forage is another really big thing, because one of my friends, for example, almost all his food comes from either growing or foraging. And he has all kinds of really unique stuff. And I've learned quite a lot from him on his Facebook page, because people that forage, they teach very well about how to sustain yourself and how to basically just, what was that lady's name too? Oh my God, I love her. What is her name? Was it Black Forager or something like that? Oh my God, I love her. She's my favorite page. I just remembered her. She goes in and she can make almost anything out of foraged ingredients, and it's amazing. I absolutely love that. That is one of the safest things that you could do for your own future, is just learn. Yes, Black Forager, that's her name. Thank you. I couldn't think of her for her YouTube or her Facebook. But anyway, she is wonderful because she teaches you how to make food out of stuff that you can find literally in your backyard. And when, if the shit were to hit the fan, this is probably knowledge that I cannot imagine how important and precious that knowledge would be. Because honestly, if things get weird, the first thing that's going to happen is people are just going to hunt all the deer, all the small game, though they will be gone within 3 weeks. So the main thing is that if shit gets weird and shit hits the fan, like they said it might when we switched to 5D, this is knowledge that you're going to need in order to get by until we rebuild the system. And this is why farmers are so important. So, yes, exactly, Mike. Gonna need it when things get awkward. So anyway, any other questions? I've been rambling for another 90 minutes again almost. And then I'm going to believe that I no longer have diabetes, and that I am no longer craving processed sweet junks, and everything I consume is creating abundant health in my body. Now I just have to learn how to grow my own food without killing it. Well said, Lori. I'm on the phone. Still, go out. You're not even dressed. Get out of here. Sorry, my 7-year-old, now I've let him in here once during a podcast. Now he thinks he can just barge in here anytime he wants. Little stinker. He's wearing a bathrobe too. Like, get out of here. Anyway, see, you can tell he's ready for me to be off of here. He needs to learn patience, so we'll give him 5 more minutes. A great resource for everything preparedness is Canadian Prepper on YouTube. He's amazing and so informative on everything. Is that his name on there? Canadian Prepper? Because I've never heard of him. I'll have to check him out. Let's see. I'm just reading through the comments real quick. I'm trying to catch up because a bunch of you had something to say in the last minute or two. As Vanessa said, it varies with each type, but a big key is to dry the seeds before storing. Humidity and moisture will ruin the majority of seeds. Yes, absolutely. Yep. Seed banks, I'm telling you, they're one of the most important things that you could do for yourself. Because if you think about it, right? Let's just say you have a big bag of seeds that you can sprout. And then the shit hits the fan. And that big bag of seeds is all you've got, right? You could take half of those seeds and start sprouting them, and you can live off of sprouts for a couple weeks. I know it wouldn't be easy, but this is something that a lot of people have actually planned to do because sprouts have a lot of nutrition in them and they grow very, very quickly, like in a day or two. And then you use the other half of the seeds to grow other, you know what I mean, to grow the actual plant in order to the point where they can have food. And then everybody swaps their food. We all have like a trading system. And then we don't have as much to worry about because everybody is growing a specific crop and then we can trade crops. Barter systems are the best. They have worked for thousands of years. And this is why the government doesn't like barter systems because, you know, if Tom wants to trade a bushel of apples for Bob's bushel of Brussels sprouts, you know, the government can't go and be like, oh, well, I'm going to take some of these Brussels sprouts. I'm going to take some of these others. You know, they want to be able to tax it. So that's why they don't want the barter system because they can't just help themselves to our shit. So the barter system is honestly the best way that humans on Earth can sustain themselves, period. But that is a whole nother discussion for another day because, man, we could talk for hours and hours about the economy and money and how that system works because, man, that's a joke too. Foraging is so hard in the States because they've stripped our native forests and contaminated the ground. Yep, absolutely, Lisa. But this is why, you know, those national parks are so important. It's important to be careful not to damage anything that you're going to in the national parks. But if you can go into a national park and find some seeds and start spreading some of those plants around, you'd be doing the universe quite a service. I'm just reading through the comments. Seed bombs are great. I love guerrilla gardening. I really do. Guerrilla gardening is the best when you can just take a shaker and you just shake some seeds around. Because there's so many of them that are towns and cities that kind of don't want any of these food type of plants. And Black Forager, just the other day, she shared a video where she was lost her shit. She was walking down the road and there was a whole bunch of planters and every single planter had edible foods in them. And she lost her mind. She's like, oh my God, this is edible, and this is edible, and this is edible, and this is edible. She's like, who did this? And it made me laugh so hard because we could change the whole world doing that. If we just had all of these city planters that instead of growing, you know, unedible foods, we could grow something that people could eat. It would change all kinds of stuff. It really would. Just step outside for a couple peppers real quick. But then again, you'd have to wash those peppers real quick if you're growing them in New York City. Who knows what would be growing on the sidewalk peppers. But even if you only have like a tiny little balcony or a window, you can still grow something to help offset some costs and to give yourself a little bit of a practice, you know, growing things. Just catching up because, oh my God, lots of comments. Start grafting fruit trees onto public trees on the streets and parks. That's hilarious, Rebel. Now I can see why your nickname is Rebel. Love it. Yes, grafting fruit trees is really cool. A lot of times people don't even know what grafting is. So a lot of our apples come from grafted trees. So long story short, they'll take an old tree from a different type, they'll cut the branch on it, and then they'll put another branch from a different tree and they'll put it together and they'll put tape around it. And then that branch will grow the new type of apple. rather than the old type. So you can actually get a fruit tree that grows 40 different types of apples if you were really that dedicated, which is pretty cool, actually, if you think about it. We should be grafting fruit trees all over the place. We really should. Then we can grow like cherries in parks and stuff, and then you can just go out and make your own food. Some critters ate my baby watermelons from my garden. So no wonder. This is another reason why we need to practice, because there's a lot of things out there that's going to fuck with our garden. So we're going to have to learn how to do organic farming. For thousands of years, people grew food, and their lives were dependent on it. So they had to know their stuff. They really had to know how to protect their food, because if all the critters came in and ate it, they would die. So this is why things are so complicated nowadays. We've lost so much knowledge in the last 100 years when it comes to ways of protecting plants and stuff. So there's a lot of people, though, that still to this day use organic planting methods. You can plant certain plants together. Like, I forget what one it was, whether it was that yellow plant. What are they called? Oh my gosh. But you plant them around your plants and you don't get any pests. I forget what they're called. Of course, one of you is going to remember them. But I used those in South Africa and I had no pests. I did a whole big ring of them around my plants. And the only pests I had in South Africa when I had my big fancy garden was the baboons. And let me tell you, the baboons, they can marigolds. Thank you, marigolds. Marigolds really did work. They protected my plants like you wouldn't believe. I didn't have any issues. The only issue I had was with baboons. And they decimated my whole garden. Oh my God, they were fuckers. I love baboons. I think they're unique, but man, when they come in the garden, they'll rip off your corn, right? Take one bite of the corn and then throw it. Or they'll go into your passion fruit, and they'll take 50 passion fruits off of the vine before they're even ripe, They will decimate a whole garden. That was my only pest that I really had to deal with was baboons. Oh man, they caused so much shit. They ruined my whole garden. They really did. So yeah, if you're smart about it, you can protect your plants with other plants. Like peppers, for example. If you're having problems with birds, I forget what there was a lady that was growing spicy peppers. And she had a problem because the birds were coming in. So then she got a different kind of pepper or plant that the birds didn't like. And she did keep it in water and then she'd spray down her pepper plants and none of the birds would come and eat her stuff then. So, we have to be clever. But if we're clever, we don't end up having to need things like pesticides and poisons and shit. So there's lots of ways that we can be clever and have lots of wonderful food growing in our garden without having to worry about animals and bugs coming and just decimating everything. Neem oil is another big one. I had a problem with mites. I may not have pets, but I have plants. I have a lot of plants in my house. And I had an issue with freaking mites the other day. They all came in. I had these white little thingies. I was like, what the hell is that? Oh my God. So I busted out the neem oil. And luckily enough, all the little bastards are gone now. But man, mites can really ruin your whole plant, your whole freaking indoor garden. So neem is a big one. Next time, spray your watermelon with neem honey, and it might actually work better because it is one of those natural things that you can use. Also, one of the best things to do is grow indigenous plants in your vegetable garden because many insects will eat the indigenous plants instead. You can literally pick off tomato hornworms and put them on a jimson weed instead. They will allow the caterpillar to exist and it becomes a beautiful pollinating moth, but you still have your vegetables. Man, Catherine, you should come on a podcast and just tell us all your plant secrets. Love that. We should have a gardening day. Absolutely. We just talk about plants and gardens. I'm a big fan of plants. I would love that. My most prized plant was actually a gift from my friend Mish. She sent me some monies and I was like, I know what I'm gonna buy with it. And I bought myself a pink princess philodendron. That's my baby. And it was near the mites and I freaked out. Like, no, not my pink princess. So yeah, I am totally a nerd. I really am through and through. Love gardening. But it's time consuming. It's very time consuming. We keep ourselves very busy when gardening. So maybe when the weather gets better, we'll do like a gardening show where show you guys my garden. So I'm very proud of it. I've been working very hard on trying to basically just keep plants alive at the challenge, right? I'm sure many of you also know what it's like to have a brown thumb, because I did for many years. I had a brown thumb. I could not keep plants alive, but I've been practicing quite a lot lately, and my brown thumb is getting greener. So really, it just takes practice and dedication and lots of books. I have a shitload of books. So anyway, it's been 90 minutes at least now that I've been rambling on about plants and cool shit. So I'm gonna bounce now that my kid is getting impatient. He's literally knocking on the wall right now. I don't know if you heard that, but that was him. So he's been home for 2 days now listening to me do my podcast. I imagine he's bored shitless. So I'm going to go take him out for a nice walk. I love you guys. Thank you very much for joining me today. And I will see you all Monday with Miss Sarah Breskman Cosme. It's going to be a great chat all about Atlantis. I am taking Sundays off now as per my little guy's request. He wanted a day where he gets all of mommy's attention. So that is now Sundays. Sundays is Aiden Day. Love you guys. I will see you Monday. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Mwah. See you soon.